While many of us are waiting for Shadowlands to drop, I wanted to make this video to talk about what I think are the best healers for raiding. I split this video into two parts due to people playing at different difficulties, and some healers will do better in Mythic or Heroic. Keep in mind this is what I've seen as a healer in my raiding experiences, as well as seeing the information gathered from the beta and Warcraft content creators. Most of this information shouldn't be too surprising, as for the most part, healers are staying relatively the same as they were in BFA, with some small changes to help them in areas they are weak in, and so on. But I want to inform people that might be coming back to the game or might be looking to roll a healer that would best help their guild's progression coming into Shadowlands. Keep in mind that the gameplay you see throughout the video is not mine, as I do not have beta access, but from other YouTubers who I will give credit in the description below. I do not claim any of their work, and all the credit goes to them. Before we get started, I would like to ask that if you enjoyed the video after watching, if you could drop a thumbs up on this video. It tells the YouTube algorithm that you enjoy my content, and it helps me grow and makes my videos be seen by more people. So with that said, let's get started. I will first start off with heroic or casual progression. And what I mean is a guild that doesn't really push hardcore and try to get into Mythic very quickly, but progresses at their own pace and achieves AOTC in a timely manner. Most guilds like this will dabble in Mythic or choose not to pursue Mythic difficulty due to the number requirement of needing 20 people exactly, and they might have more or less, as well as the increase in time versus reward. With that said, my two best options for healers in this progression would be Holy Priest and Mistweaver Monk. I'll start off with Holy Priest. Holy Priest has always been an amazing raw HPS healer for past raids and expansion. And if you look back at logs for those raids, Holy Priests are consistently on the very top due to the amount of sheer AoE healing they can do. They have so many AoE healing abilities from Prayer of Mending, Halo, Circle of Healing, Holy Word Sanctify, and having two very strong HPS raid cooldowns with Divine Hymn and Holy Word Salvation. So it's very easy to see how Holy Priest can easily blanket the raid in their heals. Also, Holy Priest is a reactionary healer, meaning you react to the damage. When you see the raid take damage, you start healing. You don't have to prepare for incoming damage and be proactive with your heals. This is good for early fight progression where you might not know all the damage patterns of a boss fight and you won't be punished for it compared to other healers if you're not prepared for it. You just heal the missing health of your allies and you will be perfectly fine. One weakness I would say of Holy Priest is their lack of mobility. A lot of their abilities are cast, so that requires you to be standing still for most of the time. This can be inconvenient for some fights that require a lot of movement, but you should still be fine and can still heal on the move, but not be able to use your stronger abilities. Other than that, Holy Priest is the best beginner healer in my opinion, so if you're learning how to heal for the first time, Holy Priest toolkit and abilities are very easy to grasp for newer players. My next pick is Mistweaver Monks. And a lot of the reasons I've shared with Holy Priest can be said about Mistweavers. Their playstyle is a little bit more single target oriented compared to Holy Priest, but that doesn't mean they can't be great raid healers. Their hot, which is called Renewing Mist, is a smart hot that can jump between targets that need healing, and will move to another if the current ally is at full health. This is great as the game manages as part of the healing for you, and not having to worry about overhealing your target. Whenever you use your single target heal, Vivify, all targets with the Renewing Mist hot will also get a good amount of healing as well. So you can see, the more Renewing Mist you have out on the raid, the more group healing you can do. Mistweavers are also the best single target healers in the game, so you can heal up a tank very quickly if they're getting destroyed by a certain tank mechanic, compared to other healers might struggle healing tanks in a quick amount of time. They are also a lot more mobile than Holy Priests, with them having much better movement abilities, and a lot of their abilities being able to be used on the move. Their AoE raid healing ability, Essence Fought, will usually be your number one healing ability in raids. It's a channel that can be used on the move that will heal your allies around you and have their healing increased if they have Renewing Mist on them already. Their healing cooldown, Revival, is a very strong and instant healing cooldown that does a huge chunk of healing in one button press. You don't have to channel it, and it doesn't do healing over time. It's just a very big heal that goes out to the entire raid. This is great for some fights when the entire raid might take a lot of damage at once and you can press it and have the raid topped back up without you and your fellow healers having to dump a lot of mana trying to get everyone back up. As you can see, Mistweavers can be extremely fun to heal on, and just like Holy Priests are reactionary healers, so all you have to do is start healing when the damage goes out. In casual progression, guilds don't really need to have defensive raid cooldowns, but rather just focusing on how much HPS can be outputted to get the raid top, as most of the time it is up to the personal healers themselves on when to use their big healing cooldowns, so it will be less coordinated on cooldown usage compared to a higher end progression scenario. Honestly, at the heroic or casual progression, all the healers are just as viable, and it really comes down to the player's skill level in that class that will make the big determining factor. A lot of players at this level are led to believe that their class determines what they are able to do and output. But at this level of progression and how heroic difficulty works, most of it is knowing when to use your certain healing abilities, mana usage, and dealing with mechanic. The more you know how to play your class and use the most out of your talents and abilities for every single fight, the more you'll be rewarded and stand out from your fellow healers. For Mythic progression rating, my first pick will be Resto Shaman. Resto Shamans are the best healers for stacked healing due to their chain heal being a very strong AoE healing ability and having no cooldown. They can continually heal the raid through high damage mechanics or phases. They also bring great utility to the raid outside of raw healing. They have abilities like Spiritling Totem, which is an insanely strong raid cooldown that redistributes all raid members' health to be the same percentage. This is particularly great when high damage bursts go out and can prevent a death and make healing for all healers easier instead of dumping all their heals on someone that might be very low. No other healer has something anything similar to this, so bringing a Shaman for certain fights will be a game changer for guilds. They also have other unique healing abilities that will increase the raid's or player health with Ancestral Protection Totem and Ancestral Vigor, which is a talent. They also have totems like Windrush Totem, which affects all allies within 10 yards and increase their movement speed by 60%, which will be great for boss encounters that require a lot of movement in a short amount of time. Another totem is Tremor Totem, which when placed removes all fear, charm, and sleep from party members within 30 yards. Examples of this being used in the past raid were fights like Carapace, which removed the raid-wide fear in the last phase. As you can see, Resto Shamans bring a lot of things to the raid and have unique abilities that make them special and highly sought after in higher end progression. Resto Shamans do lose throughput in fights that have the raid spread out and have decent mobility, as most of their healing comes from spells with high cast times. However, they have access to Spirit Walker's Grace, which allows them to cast all their abilities while moving for a certain period of time, as well as Ghost Form for increased movement speed. In terms of difficulty of the class, I would say it's relatively easy to learn, but has a high skill ceiling with how you learn how to use their unique abilities and totems to your advantage. A lot of the fights in Castle Nathria are looking to favor Resto Shamans, as a lot of the encounters have the raid stacked or loosely stacked. My second choice for high-end progression should come to no surprise, as I have chosen Discipline Priests. Dis Priests have been consistently seen in the past raid tiers in BFA, especially in the World First race, due to the fact that they are great at healing insane burst damage to the raid if they are prepared, and their rotation requires you to DPS in order to heal, so that passive damage will help in meeting DPS checks and contributing to the overall damage of an encounter. This is a big plus, as at the higher end of progression rating, every amount of damage helps make the raid fights easier. They are the only class that heals using Absorption, which will help with the Absorb Shield taking the damage first instead of affecting the player's health. They also have access to a raid-wide damage reduction ability called Power Word Barrier, which reduces all damage taken by 25% to all party members within the barrier and prevents damage from delaying spellcasting. This ability is huge for fights where the raid is stacked and taking high amounts of damage. It allows the raid to survive intense damage mechanics and phases, and for healers to not have to spend as much mana and healing to the raid. Dis Priests are great at sustained spot healing as well, and can heal on the moves, as most of their spells can be casted or channeled on the move. So as you can see, you have a healer with great burst AoE healing, good at spot healing, has great healing cooldowns for both HPS throughput and damage reduction, has absorbers to prevent damage, and decent mobility. Why wouldn't top end guilds want a healer like this? Now, a reason you don't see much Dis Priests is due to the fact they are the only healer in the game that heals through DPSing. It is a weird concept if you're not used to it, and can put off a lot of healers, especially if you have a spec like Holy Priest that is very easy to understand and heal on, and they put out great numbers. The learning curve when it comes to Dis Priest is higher than any other healer in the game. However, if you know how to play the class well, you will be rewarded with being able to handle certain fights and damage phases much easier than your fellow healers. I myself don't have much experience on Dis Priest, but looking to give it a solid try in Shadowlands. Overall, with Dis Priest not getting too many big changes, they will still be the solid healers in Shadowlands as they were in BFA, and players with high skill in the class will be rewarded in higher tiers of rating. From my choices in both heroic, casual progression to mythic high-end progression, keep in mind that you shouldn't play something that you don't enjoy. Definitely give a good amount of time on a new healer class if you've never played it before, but if you still don't like the playstyle, you probably won't enjoy that class later in the expansion. My belief is that if you really enjoy a certain spec or class, play it and master it. The more motivated you will be to play it, and then in turn gain more experience and know the in and outs of that class. This video is to merely show what I think is what classes will be good for certain scenarios on paper, but that does not take in the person's skill level as well as what your guild's progression and approach to raids. Hopefully you found this video informative and helpful. If you have any questions, please comment them down below or join my Discord, and I am always glad to respond. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.